Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session on basic customization in model-driven app. We have special guest Hamad with us today to take us through model-driven apps, and he is a Microsoft MVP, and he'll be helping us to understand the basics of customization in model-driven app. Without any delay, let's get into the session. Over to you, Hamad.
Okay. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Here in the morning. Right. So thank you very much for joining this section. Once again, my name is Hamid Abdulaziz, and today's topic I'll be talking about the basic customization in model-driven apps, in Power Apps as well. And then, first, I would like to introduce myself. I'm a senior consultant, CRM solution development. Currently, I'm working. We have reached over 10 years experience in this field, and I'm a Microsoft MVP on the business application. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm currently residing in Ireland, so I love traveling, love watching football, and also love playing games like chess, Scrabble and all of that, cards, right? So yes, that's just a little bit brief about me without wasting time. Yeah, and then here we're going to talk about the the agenda today for today. I'm going to be very brief about it as soon as I can because we have just limited time with a lot of stuff here, right? So yes, we talk about the customization and configuration. So we're going to what is customization and what do you understand by configuration? I want to talk about customization and configuration. So a lot of people mix this thing together. So just trying to understand what is it and then what actually differentiate them as well. So what is solutions? And of course, just to briefly look at this one. And also, we can talk about solution or customization without talking about the model-driven apps and the Dataverse itself. So we're going to look at the building blocks, what are the components, and then security rules for your apps as well. We're going to look at the basic scripting, right? So just introduce a basic scripting there. And then lastly, we're going to have the question and answer section as well, just in case you have any question as well. So yeah, so here when we talk about configuration, right? It's just like making some kind of changes to the system itself. This could be the presentation about all the functionalities of the application itself, and then we also talk about in terms of settings, language, in terms of the currencies as well, the environmental currency, in terms of email configuration and data management, template, and all of these, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about configuration, basically we were talking about the changes, you understand, like changes that affect the entire environment, or perhaps that affects yes, mostly that affect the environment. So for example, we'll talk about goal settings now. We'll talk about the relevant search and so on and so forth. So how we can be able to enable them, disable them, or configure all this aspect. Then we'll talk about the customization. That means that you are actually, tailoring the changes in form of in forms of extensibility. Excuse me. So to meet the business requirements. Okay, so this customization can range from maybe simply adding a new tables, adding a new fields to the application, or end up being an entire solution that will include the new table itself. So, and also that in terms of creating a new, solution, creating a new fields, a table, and the apps itself, custom application, custom workflows, and so on and so forth. That's what's basically what it means, right? So now we also have the level of customizations, right? So we have to think about the CRM solutions, for example, as something that is continuum or enhancement of the out of the box solution, for example. Uh, also consider as maybe like customizing the forms, the views, the schema, reports, and all of this, right? So, and of course, we also look at the business requirement, what's to drive these changes, the level of customizations. Does it have to do with customizing the existing or first-party app, which we are going to talk about soon, or the creating a new entire solution or entire application itself, right? So also look at the an idea environment to balance between the out of the box solution and also the custom solution as well, right? So like, okay, so what are the things that that we need to customize based on business requirements that will also meet our own desire for that requirement as well. So now we also like types of customizations. Yes, okay, we'll talk about the database itself, the Dataverse, and also looking at the inbuilt customization that include, creating a new entire table to meet the organization requirement, or to add some kind of attributes, okay, to an existing tables. Also, in terms of creating relationships and between tables themselves, how the table related together, and all of this. So these are types of customers. So we also look at the built-in functionalities. So in order to understand the features of the app, the Power, for example, and Power Platform entirely. So this will enable you to understand some functionalities, the difference between inbuilt functionalities and extensibility, which we are going to look at. And so when I talk about process tracking and automation, these are like workflow, business process flow, and then some and custom actions, for example. So these are like an inbuilt functionality that we can use to customize the application, right? So also look at the client side in terms of scripting, and then in terms of some kind of logic, and that we can also make, let's say, client-side customization, in terms of like inbuilt logic, like business rules, have a calculated fields, and the role of fields. What are these? What are these? What are these inbuilt functionality? We are going to look at that in the course of this section as well. So we talk about all of these. There are, the inbuilt functionality you can actually use to customize your application. Now, we have to look at the built-in apps and the custom apps, right? So if you look at the left side, you see that these are first-party app that when you provision the environment, or you provide you subscribe for a Microsoft Dynamics 365 licenses based on your level of license that you subscribe for. And so you're gonna have, like, let's say for example, a customer required um, a case management app, right? So, and they subscribe based on their license for Dynamics 365 for customer service, for example. So you're gonna have this first-party app where we're seeing the left there, and so you can actually customize the app to tailor towards the customer requirements, right? So it's not enough for any organization to buy license and just use the app in the way they comes. So they want to customize the app to tailor towards their business requirements. So, and then the right side, you see that the entire on the right side here, you see that you have the entire custom apps that was built from scratch, you know, and maybe because of the first app party app might not be the business that custom. I mean, might not be apps that the organization required or they would like to build or something new that can completely solve their problem. Okay. Now, when we are talking about working with solutions in Power Apps, I think I need to talk about solution first before I talk about all of this. Now, when we talk about solutions, what do we mean by solution itself? And this is very important to understand, right? Because the basis of which we are going to build our apps is going to be inside the solution. So solutions are containers, right, that can be used to transport project assets from one environment into another environment, right? So it's like containers that contain your all your projects in terms of table, in terms of your columns, your custom flow, your custom scripting, and all of these inside a container. So, and by the time you are done with this solution, you want to migrate from one environment into another environment. Let's say, for example, into development environment, into UAT, or into production environment. So it's a solution that contains all of these your assets or projects that enable you to transform your solution, your project, your asset from one environment to another environment. So when I have the types of solution, we have the managed solution and then managed solution. And of course, when we talk about the managed solution or managed solution, so these are the development of the application itself, right? So from the start, um, while you make some kind of changes, you want to add some new components, create new tables, create a new columns in that environment, right? So this can also be exported into another environment. So now when you're exporting from one environment, especially into UAT, which we are going to look at the environment later, or into production environment, right? So we want to export that solution as the managed solution. Okay, so now here we talk about the managed solution itself. So when we talk about the managed solution, so the managed solutions are like a product, a finished product, for example, that other that when you export to another environment, it is not no one can be able to change that solution or your projects that you have done in that environment. So in the essence, we mean that it's used to deploy in a non-production and non-development environment. It could be in a production environment or your user acceptance test environment, right? So, and this cannot be directly modified or removed from the in the environment. I mean, in terms of the component itself, right? So, but with unmanaged solution, you can still be able to customize directly. You can, remove some kind of components, such as tables, such as the columns, maybe some scripting and all of that. But in managed solution, it is not possible to do that, except you have to delete the entire solution, entire environment. So now, well, let's look at the model-driven apps and then Dataverse. So it is very important for us to understand some of these concepts before we start, developing our application, right? So whether you are building a canvas apps or a model-driven apps, so Dataverse is an ideal for a data source because it is first of all simple to manage, and then they provide a kind of metadata and data that are stored in the cloud itself, right? So and of course the Dataverse is like it's helping to secure your data and allow you to build security around it in terms of the security rules to prevent who to access and who not to access to your data, and then within the organization or even outside the organization itself. So it has a kind of role base, that it can be able to prevent unauthorized or unauthorized users to your database as well. So you can also enable you to have access to some 365 data. That's what we call the standards. Data and extend your applications by using Power Apps itself. So there's what we call the standards table and then also custom table itself. So we're going to look at that later. Then we'll also talk about the rich metadata, right? So this kind of type of relationship that I use directly with the apps. So there's a data types in terms maybe like talk about the different type of data types that you can use to create directly within the Power Apps itself. So we'll also look at that later in the course of this section as well. Then we'll talk about logic and validation. Now, Dataverse provides some kind of benefits that enable you to build logic in terms of calculated columns, business rules, workflows to ensure that the data quality and drive business processes, right? So one of the benefits of using it is that it's able to use the inbuilt functionality we talked about earlier, and how you can be able to leverage on these two inbuilt tools to develop your application. We also have productivity tools in terms of like product, Microsoft Excel, um, you know, um, uh, Microsoft document, Word documents, and all of that. So how can you, be able to generate like a template, maybe, and also Excel. For Excel, you can use Excel to export your data into Excel file, or you can be able to import data using Excel file and all that. So, and also you can be able to import the Word documents, templates, and all of that within the app itself. So now we'll talk about the model-driven apps. So model-driven apps design is an approach that focuses on components such as the forms, the views, chart, dashboard, and tables using inbuilt app designer tool. So most often it focuses on no code or low code, no code design components that you can quickly use to build your app. So, and of course, with model-driven apps, it's like where you can actually use an interface, like how a user interacts with the application, right? So, and in terms of accessibility as well, having people to access, in terms of uh, like we're talking about this security role-based security role the other time, how user can be prevented from accessing data. So we can also have a security role that can prevent user from accessing the app and all of that. So here, I'll also talk about the distribution of solution, right? So yeah, of course, it's part of the components that we can use to when you're transport a part of component in the solution that can also be transported into another environment. So then how does this work together? The Dataverse and model-driven apps. And of course, we say that the Dataverse is like it's a database, like a source of the data for which your apps interact with, right? And also the users as well. Now, so when building a model-driven apps, it's very important for us to focus on these three areas in terms of the business modeling, like business data modeling, right? So the and of course the model-driven apps uses the metadata-driven architecture to so that designers can customize, without the apps, without writing any codes. So with model data, we can determine what data uh, the apps we need and how the data will relate to each other, to another data. So then here we talk about relationship between the tables, right, and how they can be able to relate to each other as in the model-driven apps. Now, we also talk about the defining the business processes. Of course, defining and enforcing the consistent business process is a key aspect of the model-driven apps, right? So this will help to ensure that the app's users can focus on more of the work of their work and not worry much about performing some sort of manual tasks, right? So here we talk about in terms of logic, talk about the workflow, the business process flow, and all of this that can enable the user, that can perform some kind of actions, automatic actions, right, within automatic process within the application itself without user manually interacting with the kind of actions there. Now, talk about the composition of apps, right? So here we talk about um, uh, the let's say, for example, after modeling the data and defining the process, we also build the app by selecting and setting up some kind of navigation and in terms of sitemaps. And that make up the app within the app designer itself, right? So, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Now, what's the building blocks? What are the building blocks? So it's very important to understand this, right? First, we have the data, right? So the data is the first. We talk about the Dataverse, right? So, which is the first thing that we have to think about. How do we design or structure or model our data within the database itself, right? So data uh, is very important when data consideration is very important when you're designing your database, your Dataverse or tables and all that, So um, the data we base on the kind of tables and columns, relationship, the choice columns, and also the data types and all of that within the database itself, right? So also talk about the user interface. Now we want to consider like determine how user interacts with your app, right? In terms of sitemaps, navigation, and then in terms of forms, views, and so on and so forth. So we also look at the logic uh, as a part of the building blocks. So this has to do with the business process flow, the business rules, automation into within your your apps, right? So let's say you want, you can build a custom solution to perform some kind of logic, like maybe automatic send an email or auto create a case or to create some records and auto trigger some kind of actions, so and so on and so forth, right? Or talk about some kind of processes that users can also follow without manual input. So in terms of visualizations, talk about the dashboards, and then also talk about um, the dashboard, the charts, and then you can also embed the kind of Power BI tags within the app itself. So, and of course, the user interface and user experience are also very important. How the user interacts with the apps depends on how we design the app itself. And of course, you have the user interface, how you're able to design it, and then how user can able to use some of those components to interact with the uh, the app itself, right, and the data within the app. So this is also one of the key things that we need to take into consideration. Then, in designing your model-driven apps, also look at the something that we need to consider that in terms of business requirements. And of course, you have to include and consider some kind of accessibility, uh, data that is required. I mean, maybe the data types, for example, and also consider like what kind of design that needs to be built inside. So also talk about the data model, how the data is being collected, right? And how they relate to each other, how they work with, together within the app. So we'll talk about the logics, like the process, talk about the outputs. The outputs are the results of your development. At the end of your development, what our user is going to see to interact with. Also have some kind of accelerators. These are the things that Microsoft introduced, where they can also install in their environment, maybe like a fundraiser, for example. Then there's financial apps and so on and so forth. Like employees apps and this kind of things that's available, which you can be able to install directly from the app source. So we have the app designer. No, so this is also things that we need to that's inbuilt tools that we can use to design the 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 um, the sitemap, for example, and the dashboard, and all of these enable us to, compose our model-driven apps. So when you after the result, I was talking about the output just a few seconds ago, right? So we build the apps. The result of the apps is what you're seeing on the screen here, right? So how the apps looks in terms of the dashboard. Look at the sitemap there on the left side here. So look at all of this, right? So in terms of the, wait just a moment. Okay, um, so in terms of the dashboards, also the site navigation, how the ribbon, the commands bar and all of this, to see how the result of what we have, the user will see. So we'll talk about business requirement. The first steps that we need to look at, so how what actually the we need to consider, as I said earlier, how we can also secure your apps in terms of security roles and all of that, and some other security involved. So also look at the government's rules and regulation. This is very important as well. So in that environment, how the government are more and more concerned about the security of the app in that environment. So how secure your app is, because they are very concerned about the data and assessing the data, how the data being accessed, and where and from where, from which location. This is very important also to put into consideration. So, and also look at the apps. Does it have to be online? When user is connected from the internet, can it still be accessible? All of that. So, also look at the modules component itself, right? We have sitemaps, we have the dashboards, the forms, views, like I showed you, just at the result of what I showed you earlier. So now we're talking about columns. Now, the columns in Dataverse, we have there's columns is a way to store your discrete piece of information within the record in a table, right? So, and we have the column types, right? The text, a single line of text, which I'm going to show you in the during our demo. The phone number, you saw, the whole. These are, choices, multi choices, and these are the the column types that you can also create. And we are creating the table. So first you have the primary column, right, which is very important. One of the keys of your um, key important things you need to understand about the table, right? So when you create in Dataverse, when you create a table, so automatically you're going to have a uh, primary column, right? So, which is one of the things that you're able to identify your your custom table, right? So because one of the by the time you are creating the apps, you also only have one of the fields that is required in the app. Well, there's also auto numbering. So yeah, which I'm going to look at this later in the demo. So there's auto numbering. Place for example, like uh, case ID, record numbers, where they can use for to auto create your identify your application itself, right? So this also have a types. You have string prefix number, dates, and also you can create your own custom auto numbering. So when we talk about relationships, relationship is very important also in relating table to each other, right? And in Dataverse provide a way to manage relationship between tables, okay, or associate rows and columns and rows from each other or table from between each other. So we have one-to-many relationship, and then also have many-to-many relationship, right? So I'm talking about one-to-many relationship, relating one to, let's say, for example, we have um, we have rooms and we have rooms, or let's like in a hotel, for example, where we have contacts, for example. So we want to create relationship between the contact and the building, for example, right? So we have some, or we want to create a relationship between um an event, the people who attend the event, so these are how you can define your relationship between the table itself, depending on the business scenarios, right? Now, I want to quickly talk about go to demo. Before I go to demo, okay, let me quickly look at this. Just a moment. Okay, open out my demo environment. Yeah, okay. Okay. So now the first thing to consider, okay, maybe before I talk about go to the demo, first I need to talk about the environment, and then let me go back here. Now, environment is one of the things, key important things in development of your apps. Without environment, there's no um, a platform for you to develop your application, right? So environment is like each environment is like um, it's like a containers of your entire application. Let me put it that way, right? So where you have access to to different apps and the data and database, Dataverse, and so many and some other custom application and custom scripting, workflow, and all of that logic. So there are different types of you know environments. We have production environment, defaults, the sandbox, trial, and developers environment. So depending on your scenario, and of course, um, the production environment is the live environment where uh, the the final solution is being deployed, right? And of course, it is not encouraging, or it is not recommended at all to start development in the production environment. And we're deploying solution from from development environment to production environment has to be uh, a managed solution. I talked about the managed solution earlier, and the managed solution is where you cannot directly customize any component of the application, right? To also have a default environment. The default environment is this is created automatically when you provision an environment. So, and of course, this has a limited control. Most often you don't want to do anything in that default environment. So we also have a sandbox. The sandbox it can be when you have a full control, and this can be in the two ways, right? So you can use sandbox into for development and also for development of application for your user acceptance test, and then also again, of course, yes. Most often we use sandbox to start development, right? And for user acceptance tests also we can create another environment and call it user acceptance test. User can be able to use to test whatever thing we are develop in the development environment. We also have a trial version we can use just like what we are using my environment to try for some few things. And of course, in the customer client environment, you don't want to have this, right? Most often want to have the we see production, default, and also the sandbox environment, right? So developers environment is where you have a single access, a single user and can actually access the environment and no other person can also, this is just for development purpose and all that. No, we have access to the environment. There are security roles that that is being assigned to each users, right? Who need to perform what tasks and our functions and all that. So when you talk about the environmental admin, right? So um, the environmental admin has the admin roles to perform administrative tasks, right? So in terms of a provision of a new environments, provisions of even customizing of make some kind of configurations in the app settings, in the environment settings, right? So I'm going to talk about the environmental maker as well. So this environmental maker, the admin role can also assign security role to users and so on and so forth, and also design and kind of data loss prevention policy within the environment. The environmental maker creates environments and then also associates resources to it, right? So system administrator and all of this. So system customizer customize the apps, and also each of these roles has their their functions that needs or privileges that need to be performed within the environment, right? So we also have a role-based security role in terms of security architecture. For example, now we have the role-based, which give the user ability, I mean, the admin or customizer, our admin ability to assign, to create a custom security rules and assign some kind of privileges that's going to assign to the users, right? And they also have a business unit, and of course, the business units. When you create environments, the first there's what we call the root business unit, right? It's the first thing you're going to see, like it's just like the organization itself, right? So to provide security and structure of grouping users that are often used to mimic the organization departments, like finance, sales, and so on and so forth. So this is like a security structure of who and what set of users that need to access what and within the environment. So also have the record ownership, right? Who actually own the record and how record being assigned to other users. We also have teams, and then so teams is almost similar to business units, but they're not the same, right? But teams, we can have different level of teams that we can assign security roles. Let's say we have a set of users that need to assign, they need to perform some kind of role. Maybe some users they don't need to delete the record, right? You can create a teams and assign a security role that prevents users from deleting such a record, and so on. So also have a column level security role to access. Yes, This prevents user to update a specific or specific set of uh, feeds, right? So user can be able to see it, but they may not be able to, update. Even though they try to type something to update it, they're going to receive an error. So these are, the Dataverse provide a kind of robust security functions within the system. So you have a standard security rules and also have a custom security rules, right? So this is a typical example of the um, kind of privilege, create, read and write, delete and all that, which I'm going to show you later. So before we go to scripting, then now, let me quickly show you the environment. Do you have any question before I move on? Any question? Okay, right. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. So here, the first thing we're talking about the environment, right? So here, how do you go to the environment? You see that we have um, admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. So once you do that, the first thing you're going to see is this environment. As you can see here, I have different environment because this is my test environment, so it's not a live environment. So now we have the production environment and we have the sandbox and the trial and developers, right? You also have a default. So by default, when you create this environment, when you provision the environment, maybe you purchase a license. So by default, you're gonna have this environment, and of course, you don't have anything to do with this. You understand because you don't want. It's not recommended to start building your customization, around this default environment, right? And this is left for Microsoft to do. I don't know. You understand? So we also have production, right? Environments. It's a live environment where you deploy your final production customization, right? So you also have this sandbox. So how do you create a new environment? So here first you need to understand the what all of this is all about. Because of time, I'll just explain how you can create environment. So you have some kind of menu uh, here. You have Dataverse. This shows you what's happening in the environment. But first, how do you create environment? There's a trial like trial.dynamics.com, if I can still get it, something like that. Yeah, trials. Okay, all right. So for them to create, um, I think there is these are first to you can yeah these are first party apps you can be able to try for like some existing apps for Microsoft, maybe like sales, customer service, and all that. I can share it here, for example, the charts. And so once we're able to do that, we click on trial, for example. So it's going to take you to this, and from there you can be able to, start your trial. Once you do that, so you have an environment. Okay, probably you're going to have this environment, and that shows you perhaps a default environment, right? Then you can be able to create a new environment for yourself. Let's say a production environment or a kind of trial environment or sandbox. So here we have, let's say, text. I want to create security, for example. And then here you can select a region. And then, so depending on region you are located, or your customer is located at, right? Or so this will also determine the kind of this is also whatever you do here affects the whole of the environment in terms of the data application of the environment. So let's say the kingdom, and here we have the types of the environment. So at the sandbox you can select any of these: production, developers, and also the trial as well, right? So, and of course, with the trial, you have limited in terms of maybe like 30 days. So after 30 days, it's going to be deleted. You can also extend to for another 30 days, right? And maybe you just need it temporarily to perform some tasks, and which afterwards you might not use it anymore. And this will take only 30 days, right? You also have a Firebase, which can we don't usually have the and end like trial, for example, like the other ones here. Sandbox, and of course, always be there, to perform your tasks and all that. So yeah, let's say we wanted to create a sandbox environment. I'm not sure it's gonna go because I've created so many already. And then of course you can create a database for this environment. So that means that by the time you are, creating the environment, you want to also to create a database for it, right? Then also, and of course, we have it's like a new features like you can also how the environment license has been consumed. So here it shows you maybe through Azure, subscription as well. Now, if you click on next, and here you're going to see the language, different type of language that has been supported in the environment. In our own case, is we can select in English, and of course here, and also it's very important to select I mean to type the environment you would like to see there. So if you don't select the environment here, if I go back and click on next, and if you don't select, it's going to automatically create the URL for you, just like you see here from you here, right? Something like this related to this, right? Which if you don't want to do that in the live or the client environment, you want to act, So let's say it's like a UAT, and of course you can select the currency. This is like a base currencies, right? So the base currency or this occurs at the level of the production and provision of the environment. So this will be like a default currency for the entire environment. So you can also, although you can add as much currency that you want to add, maybe later in the application, but in the environmental level, you have a default currency. So once it is created, I don't think this can be changed, if I can remember. And of course, if you're creating an environment, a plain environment, and you have this button there, you have to enable the 365 apps, right? So you can decide to enable this or not based on your scenario. And of course, in a situation whereby the customer wants to develop the entire solution from beginning, from scratch, you might want to and you might not want to do this, right? But in the case whereby customer requires some kind of first-party apps, you can also be able to enable this in the environment. So in our case, there's a sample data that apps and data they can also enable from here, and all of that. So we also have a security group. The security group is able to enable the admin to define the group security group that will be able to define the security group to access the environment, right? So let's say those who are supposed to, to access, like segregating the access to what environment, maybe to the UAT or to production or to other environments, right? So you can create a security group to restrict users from accessing any other environment apart from the environment they are being assigned to, right? So I click on save. Yeah, because I have to, the name has already been exists, specify the value of UAT is invalid. Okay, so if I go back, I say UAT, my UAT, okay, if I go back, okay. So, which ideally I don't need much of an environment in this. So as you can see here, this will shows you the status of the environment, what's happening there. And you can see here, it's showing me in which environment is being created on. So this is for this. Once you refresh, it takes a little bit of time. Once of all, of course, the environment is ready. So when I click on to open the environment, so this will also actually shows me the details of this. I don't want to talk much about these because of the time, right? So I'll just quickly move on to the next level, right? So once you do this, you have the URL here, and then from here, you can be able to, do some kind of configuration I was talking about, you know, right? So when talk about the configuration, let's talk about, the behaviors under this product. We have business features, your users, and all of this audit log template and all of that, email configuration, and all of this, and also have a data management. You can be able to, so you can do a couple of configurations here at this environmental level that affect the whole of the environment, right? So let's say, for example, I want to be able to do some kind of, let me see, go on behaviors. And then, of course, if I disable this, for example, the autosave, right? So whatever apps are developed in the environment is going to disable the autosave, right, within the app itself. So you can just to enable some things. You can also provide a legacy name for the app. This is not necessarily the name of the app itself, but just like environment at the environmental level. Okay, and so on and so forth. I don't want to go too much in this because of time. And another thing you want to look at is where you can be able to access and start building your application, right? So there's what we call make.powerapps.com. So depending on your scenario as well, right? So you want to create or access the environment. So here is the make.apps.com. And here you're going to see the first thing you're going to see here is the homepage, to which you have some kind of how you can be able to start building your application. You also have what this gives you naturally give you the some kind of templates that enable you to build your application. So maybe you want to start from blank from Dataverse, or depending on the kind of apps you want to build, it could be your Canvas apps or model-driven apps. But in our case here, we're talking about model-driven apps. And of course, you can also select the kind of data source if you are building a Canvas apps, for example. Excel, you have Excel data you can bring in, you can import. You also have a SQL and then SharePoint, the Dataverse table. So these are data sources, right, where you can use to build your application. So there's also videos you can watch. I can watch to, provide you more details of how you can use this environment. And also have some kind of training sections, like, where you can access some kind of apps. Once I click on this, so you're going to take me to, the Microsoft Learn site, where I can start my application. Now, here we're looking at the creating a solution. Now, we have different kind of environment earlier on, right? So we have you can always switch, this is very important when you want to start your apps. Which environment you want to start your application or start building your application on, and all of that, right? So if I click on UAT, for example, that we created earlier, as you can see, this is actually switch into the environment that I wanted to build out. And then I can start. This is very important because sometimes when you mistakenly switch to production, maybe you open the apps, and then at the end of the day, you'll be building on production environment, which is not encouraging for you to directly build some kind of thing there. So in our case, we have, if I switch to my other environment, like webinars, for example, I will see that I have some apps that are built here already. And this is going to give you like, webinars environment. Let me look into other environments like smart demos, for example. So these are apps that available in the environment. Sometimes we have the first-party apps, like inbuilt apps and also custom apps. All of them, this way you're going to see all of them here. And you also have my apps and organizations apps. So the difference between the two mostly is that the entire environment, what are the apps available there, and also this really supposed to show you only your own application that you build there. But in this case, it's showing almost everything. And here we have the solutions. So we talked about solution earlier, and where you can actually start, building your entire solution. And then, of course, we have the for the entire environment, we have the standard, apps or solution, or let me say, an custom solution, right? So the standard solution is when you provision the environment, you enable your apps. I think I talk about the to toggle the apps when you're provision environment. So when you install the environment, I mean the first party apps, like it's Microsoft Sales, Dynamics for Sales, customer engagement, uh, customer service, like marketing and all of these are the first party apps that I was talking about, right? So, and where you can actually customize to some extent, but you don't have, where you can actually store, where you can actually customize some few things within let's say case management, for example. You can be able to customize, the apps in a tailors towards the business requirement. But so here you're going to see all of these solutions. You can also create a new solution for yourself, right? So I talk about this solution and how you can be able to, provide, the for your entire business requirement, right? So this is where you can actually start with. So first, I want to switch into let me see if I have this environment. Maybe I have to continue with this, right? So and here we're going to see the I want to show you some of the apps I've built. Okay, let me say library. Um, okay, a moment. Okay, all right. So here is my custom apps that I built, solution I created, from previous months and all that. So I'm coming to that. So we also have tables. We have the standard tables and custom tables. So the standard tables are available when you provision environment based on, earlier on we talked about enabling the creation of, database. At earlier on, we're talking about creation of the environment. So once you create an environment and enable the database, right, to be created, so automatically you're going to have some kind of standard tables, right? So even though you don't enable them, there's still few standard tables you're going to see within the application itself, within the environment. So the apps, we have the standards table, as you can see here, the table types. And if I want to filter, I can filter based on the virtual table. There's also custom table, so to say, which I'm going to show you later. So there is a standard table that have been available here, and then also there's a custom table. Let me see if we have a custom table here. Okay, these are managed table, right? They are managed. Okay, right. So, and here these are custom exactly, and you have the customs table here, showing the custom here. And here you also have solutions that either is a managed table, managed or unmanaged. So when you talk about managed, that is standard, right? And then When I talk about unmanaged, that is the custom one, right? So I think this table is like a standard table itself, like it's not like what we're talking like manage or manage table. So as you can see here, we have a custom and also have a standard. So once you're able to provision that as well. We also have a connectors. You can connect to the environment. Maybe you're building a canvas SaaS or workflows and all that. We also have a data flow. Data flow provides you with the ability to integrate or bringing in importing the data from different kind of source, right? So let's say if I create a flow, okay, say let me show you from the existing one. Let me see from here. SQL Server, for example, and I want to get the data from different kind of source from here, right? So I can get it from, but I don't want to talk much about this, but this is the kind of inbuilt tools you can use you can leverage on to import, to import data or migrate data from other source into the Dataverse, right? So there are features here that we might want to see, connected because of time, and I want to go into them. Now, we want to start building a solution. And before we start that, I want to show you what are the apps we have in the environment, the standard app, the custom apps, and also the out of the box, which is called the first party app. Now, you see that at this level we have the here these are the custom. These are the first party app like free service, for example, free service mobile marketing, and these are project operations. We also have the custom and of course connected free service and all our custom service and all of that. So once I click on this, for example, customer service hub, click on loading. So this gives you the ability to provide you with the custom, the first party apps, like the standard apps that you can be able to customize the laws towards your business requirement, right? As you can see here, we have a dashboard. We also have an accounts. These are standard columns or tables. And of course, once I click on this, and if I click on views, click on accounts, and you see all of these, right? Once I open the form, the record, I can see also the record itself. So you have a contact, and all of these are a standard tables, a record table itself, right? Then I can be able to customize what I want to do with it, right? For example, I can add a case title. I can, do so many customization within the form itself. There's some things I may not need. For example, I might have to add, some kind of columns and all of that within the form itself, right? So, but first, and also have the custom one. And here, let's say library checker. And this is like a custom application. And in model-driven apps that was built by me previously. And then if I click on this to open this record, for example, you have the dashboard, the emails. These are standard. You can also bring in the standard table, standard table into your custom application, right? So, for example, these are custom forms. This app was built from scratch and also added some kind of standard table within it itself. Now, if I go back to solution itself, and then the first thing I want to do when you're starting your development is to create a solution yourself. Like I said earlier, the solution contains your project assets that enable you to migrate your solution from your customization from one environment into another environment. Yeah. Now we are doing creating the solutions like a container, right? So now if I say demo like a tracking app application, tracking app, for example, and here we have publisher. So the function of publisher is enable you to identify your application, your solution. So by the time you're deploying to an environment, it also be able to identify that this solution belongs to this specific company. Yeah, for example, so I want to use the name of your company to create a solution. So if you don't have a publisher, so if you don't have a publisher existing, how can you create a new publisher? For example, if I click on new publisher, I can give it a name. I can say, let me say, I think I have gone to the some, okay, by some, okay, some publish, okay, my sample. Okay, so you can also give it a name. I'll give it the same name. It's fine. You can give a description. And here you can also want to have right prefix. So the prefix is like maybe this will be able to identify your solution. I mean maybe the entire solution, the entire solution in terms of table, the columns and so on and so forth. So as you can see here, we have the prefix and also have the objects. This could be like a table, your columns, and then your custom scripting and all that. Then if I click on save, so here I can be able to select. Also, I click on save, and also here also have a contact where you can put a phone number, your address, for your company and all of that. You might want to do that. Now I create a solution and I can come back to select this. And once I do that, you also have a solution versioning, right? So of course, when you start building an application or solution, you also have the solution versioning that start from 0, and you can also change this, but recommended is to leave it the way it is. Now click on create. So once you do that, and here you're gonna have some kind of navigation sets here. We have the overview here. So this overview provides you with the kind of information in terms of the application name, and then also when the environment was created, I mean the solution was created, and the time also solution versioning as well. And also I want to check the objects. So this contains your table. This contains your tables, the entire asset of the solution itself. As you can see, we have 0, all of them is 0, 0 tables, all of these are zeros because we haven't done anything yet in the environment. You also have a solution histories, right? So the solution history provide you when the solutions maybe was deployed, for example. So if I deploy the solution to another environment, so the solution will show me the version 1, version 2, or the kind of versions, when this solution was deployed into that environment, right? So we have pipeline, right? The pipeline is like it's a new one of the new features introduced, I think this year or late last year, if I can remember, to deploy, your pipeline, from one to automatically create deployment of solution from one environment into another environment rather than exporting and import. Now, if we want to start creating our objects from here, the first thing we'd like to create is to create a table, right? We're going to create a table, and here we're going to say, okay, let's say scenario, depending on the kind of scenario. So here I'm just creating generically, not that I'm specific. Okay, let me say we will say our tracking application, right? What do you want to try? Let's say you want to track a scenario whereby we're required to develop an application to track books library, for example, right? So we're going to create a library app, books borrowing library. When you go to library to borrow a book, or books, they want to have check-in and check-out library application. Let me put it that way. To check in and check out your application, the details of, so we're able to track how many books or who students actually, took the apps and when to check in and check it out. And so just to track the movements of, um, books in and out of the library. So let's say, for example, and I said here, library. Okay, and the program name is always the name of the apps. And here we have a primary column, right? So like I mentioned earlier about the primary column itself. So the primary column is like a unique, it probably is similar to a unique identifier of your environment, of your table, right? So in which it's always something that usually, create automatically or identify automatically once you create the table now. So you can change this name and say the first name or the name of the student or the first thing they want to see in the column. Okay. You can also change it and say surname. And of course, when you have in the table, these are the things, one of the things that can be required within the table itself. And also you have the prefix of our solution that we created earlier, and also have the schema name as well. Okay, and you can change it if you want. You understand, but it's always recommended to leave it to the way it is in case of your scripting as well. You can also have make it a business required and then recommended and optional. But for the first primary column, it is always recommended to leave it as a business required. And also you have the maximums of characters of accounts within the specific field column. So once you click on save, so this will automatically create some other columns within the table. So now we have the custom table, also have the fields or columns. So within the table, we have the standard columns, and then we have the custom columns, which I'm going to show you. Now, as you can see, we have table here now within the Dataverse, right? So if I go to columns, right? And if I have to go back first, okay, objects, click on these tables. So once we create our table, right? So we're going to have these columns, relationships, and all of these that we can use to create further, actions within the table itself. And if you click on drop down here, you're going to see these columns, for example. Now, we created the table newly. As you can see, once you create table within the Dataverse, so you're going to have some columns automatic being created for you once you created that. So such as the created by, and all of these dates and all of these in which the application has been created, maybe a record. And all of these are standard columns that when you create a new custom table are going to be available. They are going to be created automatically, within the Dataverse, right? So now, if I go to the forms, and if I go back here, here you can see the primary column name that we created. As you can see, how it's being identified with. This is also different from the standard columns. The standard columns don't have that kind of prefix, right? As you can see, this shows you that this is the standard, this is a custom columns, right? And again, if you go to the forms, as you can see, the forms is not, the forms are standard forms. You can also create a standard form ourselves and add some other forms here, the main form, the quick form, and card form. So, but here we have, standard form being created for us already. Once you provision, once you created a table within the Dataverse. Now, if I open up the form, right? What is this error? Okay, not sure about this error. Okay, I'll look at this now later. So, and here, as you can see, we have just one column within the form itself, right? You can be able to add more columns into the form and all that. So if I go back here, and here we also have the views and other. Okay, let's talk about columns first. Maybe we're creating the columns and then we want to add more columns. So the first one we created is the surname, and here we want to create the first name. And here I was talking about the data types. Okay, so the data types, how like it's, like I was talking about in my earlier introduction in the slide about this, right? So we have the data types here. They are the data types depending on what you want to do with the field itself, with the columns itself. So we also have single line of text, right? We have the text area, so depending on what the field is all about, or depending on the requirement of the field. Now we have a first name. So this is going to be like, of course, a single line of text, right? We also have a number where you can, different kind of types of format you can types here. Maybe probably it's going to be the decimal number, the whole number, duration, time zone, and so on and so forth. You also have a date, and of course, you can select either date and time or date only. Also have a lookup into, and this is where you create relationship. You can be able to create relationship directly from this type of lookup field. You understand? Between one table to another table. You also have a choice, and then you have multi-choice, and also we have the we have a choices to select from, and you also have the yes or no choice as well. We have a currency, we also have an auto number, and so on and so forth, right? So in this case, we're going to have first of all a single line of text, right? So once I click on that, if you click on advanced options, you can also specify the name and with the schema name. So this is very important that we take note of this, right? So like I said earlier, it is very recommendable to leave the schema name to align with the same name of the column itself, right? So here you also have the maximum character of counts that can fit or contain within the field itself, right? So you can as much, I think the highest could be maybe 4,000 within on a single line of text, right? That is 4,000 character. So we can define that the length of character shouldn't be more than 100 within the table. This is good sometimes when you want to manage, like a kind of like sort of like a data manager within the environment, within your app, right? So, and once you click on that and they click on save, and here we have the click on save here, the first name. Yeah, first name here we have our table, as you can see here. One of the things we also we need to add to this, right? Another thing we can add to this is, let's say, first name, you can add another name. And here we can add, let's say, first name, and then, okay, email address, and just a few things. Here we have email. We should have email from here. Yeah. an email here. So this means that within that field or table, you're gonna have a field that will not contain any other thing than.
You can also make it and small requirement. And also, in addition, we can create more tables and say phone number, for example, and here you can select the friend and say phone number, right? Another thing I contain that without that, it's going to throw it away. Okay. And again, so let's add more field records and say a record number, for example. And of course, in our application, we want to, as soon as possible, to add a record number to be able to identify each of the records of the application itself. So I say record ID, and here this is where we talk about the auto numbers. So the auto numbers enable you to auto generate ID for your record, right? And here, this is where I was talking about the string prefix number and date prefix number, and also the custom one. So when I talk about this string, so it's gonna have like similar to uh, basically it's going to be with the case with the kind of characters that we specify within that auto number, right? Just a moment. So here, most times the string prefix is like you can be able to provide the prefix. Let's say CA, for example, as you can see from here. So you have this prefix and also have the number that will be auto-generated. Also have a number of digits that can contain here. As you can see here, we have 4. You can maximize this to give you like 6 here. So depending on the kind of a scenario of your or kind of a business requirement. Now, if I want to click on dates, this will automatically be based on the date itself, right? In which uh, each record will be created, right? Most often you don't want to use this because it is not, might not see it as, being well organized, right? And you can also select the format and all of that, which is not. And also we have a custom one. How you can be able to add this prefix in a way that the case record, a way that customer wants or depends on. So as you can see, we have append. You can append a sequence number, and also you can append a date and also random string. So you can combine the three of these together to form your. So let's say here we have it's a custom one, and here it's not the dates. I can remove this one and I can append sequence number. I can append a date. I can also append a string number, range number, for example, right? And here, okay, what I want to do is to first, we only need a string number. Let me just put it this way. Let's put it this way. You can this custom one sequence number to come first, and then also you might want to put this way and add the dates. In the date, we don't need the entire date, right? You might want to have just the sorry, just the year. This will give me just the year. Sorry, yeah. Yeah. So as you can see, I'm gonna have this number, right? And I'm gonna have this year. So let's say I want 2 numbers from here, right? I can equally add, let me say here also, and I can append a kind of, okay, this is what I want. to see here. So for example, here, now this enables me to define my custom, you know, auto number, right? So here we have the let's say the company or the client who actually wants to, you know, have their own desired prefix, for example. And also this is like a sequence number that keep on counting when application is created. Now we also have the year, right? And so this is sometimes this is good because it's able to identify the see the year in which that application is being a record year of that or I mean like the number or the year to see. It depends on the kind of scenario. For example, some organization we want to require that okay they want to have their um, case records to be in this specific way, so that it can enable them to identify the year in which record is being created, or you know, depending on this kind of like maybe like how they can be able to report within, to give report within, or to generate report using this kind of case ID. So and so let's say in the next year, for example, this also we can also change to 2024, for example, depending on the date of creation. So now we have this, and then I explained this earlier. If I click on OK, and here we also have this. What else we have in the table itself? We can say checkout date, checkouts. Okay, and here we can say dates, and here we can select only date. We want only date only, or you can probably put the date and time there if you want, date and time, and click on save. And here we can further select check-in date, for example, in which the application or the books were returned. And then of course we have date and time, click on save. And again, we also have, let's say, did I say department? Okay, no, not yet. So now we've created some fields for keywords, and here are some columns. And the next thing we want to do is to assign those columns in our form, right? So if I go back here, click on the dates, I can click to open a new tab. So in a new tab here, and also I was talking about the earlier on here. Here you can directly create columns within here, and also you see all the custom columns and standard columns that are available here. You can see from here, and here we can be able to add our columns here, the first name, and email address. You can also drag and drop, checking date. You can want to drag and drop. Most of the time, I usually want to, you know, select this, depending on this, right? Once I do that, I click on save. And here, this is where you can actually, you know, design your form and to be able to add more, you know, records, columns to it, right? So the forms, let me quickly explain about the form itself from here. So here we have the form, the entire form. We have the section. As you can see here, this is the section. You can also give it a name, the section contains depending on your kind of your scenario, that how you can be able to group columns within the form itself, right? So here I can give it a name. as you can see here, this is general. I can say student book details, and this will automatically change. You can hide show label, right? This is show label, and then here the section. This is sometimes this is like a schema name for the section itself, because if by the time you're talking about the client scripting, I want to be able to add you know, the section, maybe you want to perform some action within the section, you can be able to add more the name there, right? Okay, so and here, okay, sorry, that takes a little bit of time. Yeah, so now we have the section, and then also we have the headers as well. And here the headers. So most of the times you wanted to add some fields, some columns to the header, right? So here, if I click on add, and so most of the time I wanted to drag this owner record. So the owner record is the person or user that actually owned the record, who created the record, or a record being assigned to, right, within the app itself, right? So here you click on save. Now we have some other components here. You can see we can add more one column tabs and the two column tabs, and you can add more section and then quick view and all of these, right? Of course, you know, and here we also have some fields here. We also have, you know, the headers. Once you click on this, you have ability to view the header and footer as well. And then here it shows you where you can be able to add your custom scripts, right? And then which can be applied to within the application. So we also have a business rules that you can create, which we're going to talk about that on the client scripting. So if I need to add more columns tab here, so once I click on this, it's going to add automatically to the tabs. Then I can continue to add more and more tabs within the application. So in this case, we don't need one. And here, remove this. So what I needed to add more is a section, right? You can add more section. Here you can also have the columns, format columns, and then you can be able to add additional, you know, field within the same section of the app itself. Now, if I need to add more section to the apps, one more column to the section, and here, and I say the student details, and then here we can say a column, and again, there's something that we need to add to this. We want to say like another column and say and name it ISB number, because each book, every book have ISB number, right? ISB number. And then here we can try to leave it like single line of text, of course, and click on save. So now we can add ISB number, and here we can click on save and publish. Now I want to show you how the apps look like after creation of the apps, right? Maybe we can just do some few things here, and maybe just a moment. I'm just trying to figure out some things here. Okay, ISB number. Okay. So if you have any question, feel free to stop me and ask question regarding this. So I can also add more details. Say book details. You can book a name, book details. click on publish, and publish. When you customize your app or add any kind of customization to your form, and it's very important that you publish, not just to say publish. If you say without publishing, I should not make the changes that we make will not reflect with the user interface there, right? So here, and now we can add more details and say maybe you're gonna create. We don't have more table yet, so that if I go back to this apps and they say phone number, it's fine. Phone number as well. Yeah. So this should be. Yeah. Click on save. I click on publish, and then once I go back here, I click on done, and this is done already. So I can add more to the views, right? If I go to the views, now there's a standard views, and then also you can create a custom one. Now, most of often you want to use the standard views, right? So active views and also inactive. And of course, it's good for all to understand this, right? And the active view contains like the active record, and the inactive views which shows the record that are not active, like so the user don't want to see them in available active views. And sometimes you might want to uh, it might want to encourage the user to deactivate the record, not to delete the record. So once user deactivate the records, so automatically the such record would we move to inactive um, um, views, right? So here, if I click on views, now the first thing we did was to create a table, right? And which in Dataverse, and the table we create a column. We create columns, and we create some. We have other standard columns, and also we have out of the box columns. And then here, there we added those columns to the forms, right? And now this is the views, right? How user sees the record once they open the table within the interface, right? Now, in the table, we can have the surname, we can add last name. Here, we can drag it and drop. And also we have the ISB number, we can drag to this view. We also have here email, probably to the views, probably email to the view, and then depending. So here you can also sort by surname. Yeah, that is fine. You can also filter. You can add more sorts if you want to sort like this. You can add more sorts to this. You can sort by here by the numbers of record you want to sort within the view. You can also edit filters. So here you can see where you can actually change or modify the status of the filter, or you can add more if you want. But in this case, because of time, you can just put that active. Click on save. And also you can also rename this if you want. And in this case, you can just leave it as it is. And here, once you do that, and then we're done with this, click on OK. So you can also do the similar thing to all of these, right? Now, if I go back to my table, click on apps. Now, I just want to create like the app itself, right? So what I've been doing since is to define the structure of the table, and to ensure that all the required columns have been created, and to also ensure that all of the table is properly defined. The properties of the table are properly defined within the Dataverse, right? So now I haven't create the app's interface yet, that where user will start interacting within the table itself, right? So now if I also click on these columns, and from here directly I can add some data within the Dataverse, right? So here, if I click on edit, I click on new to open another tab here, and then so I can actually select what data I want to see from here, right? I want to create, let's say first name, sorry, surname here. I can also search by last name. Okay, first name, ISB number, and also I can add what dates, what else you can add from here, an email. Okay, click on save. Within the Dataverse, can add more. Let's say Whitney. I can say ISB number. I can put email. Okay, so as you can see, this will automatically save within the data file itself. Sorry. This is, okay. Me. Okay, so here, okay, so I have some views. I'm going to talk about chart later. And here, so the next thing I want to do is just to quickly show you to add the model-driven app itself. So, okay, so here we have apps where you can create. And we have canvas apps, we have a model-driven apps, and also page. But in our case, we are developing a model-driven app, so we can give it a name. You can say library tracker, and then also you can also use some component from here. But here we can create a new. So this will give us the kind of enable us to design the interface of the application, right? So, earlier on I talked about the data level, and also talk about the user interface, talk about the logic, and we'll also talk about the business requirement as well, right? So most of the times you see that where you can actually the name of the apps, the details, and you can also add some kind of custom icon to your app, as you can see from here. And then here you also have, you can add more pages if you want, and you also define navigation by itself. And most of the time, I usually want to switch to classic to show you where, okay, you need to save, publish, and continue from here. So once published, and here you see the app designer, right? So, this is where you can actually define your sitemap and also add some details, some other details in terms of the dashboard. And you can also add more forms and so on and so forth from here, some other components. Right here, you can see the entities, you can dashboard and all of that. You can add more to it. So also you see the app properties from here, and you can see the URL from here as well. You can usually copy it, and then what's this one? Copy, and then so most of the times. Now, what we need to do is to add the table to our sitemap within the interface. If I click on sitemap, and here we have the areas. The areas shows you just like how the navigation wants to look at. I say and say, let's say records, for example, and you can also add a group and the library record. Okay, books, records. And then here you can add. So now here is the main thing that we need to see. Like we created earlier on. If I have to go back here. Okay, if I have to go back from here. What's the name of our table? You see that library tracker app, right? It's the name of the table. And then here we can define the types of, what we need to see. You can add dashboard, entity, or web resources or URL. But in our case, this entity, the table itself. I say library tracker app, if I'm correct here. Yeah. Okay. Then click on save from here and click on publish. So it's very important to publish your customization, because if you don't publish, it's not going to reflect in the app itself, right? So once you do that, then we can be able to click on the app to play, and this will also take us to. So now we can click on play. Before you do that, you click on save first from the here and click on publish once again. As you can see from here, we have the table being added to this site, the app designer. The entire of this area is called app designer. So once I click on this, you see the form here. We're going to see the views and chart and all of this, right? Here, as you can see, we have only one form, and also we have the views as well. I can decide to show all the views, or just to show a specific views within the app. The same thing as form as well. So once I click on that, I think I click on that, save and publish. And here, and click on save and click on play. So now we have the views. Oh, I think there's something wrong here. It doesn't show. Okay, then I need to go back here, sub area. This is shows. Okay, this is show. We can name it from here. Library tracker. Okay. Okay, click on save, click on publish. Okay, still publishing. And here, so as you can see, that once I click on refresh, once again, and this is supposed to reflect from the navigation sitemap, right? As you can see here. So this is what we call the sitemap, right? And here, as you can see, the views, active view, you can select, change the views as we want. And here, as you can see here, this doesn't have any record from here. And here you can click on the record itself. So once you click on records, as you can see here, and earlier on, we created a record within the data verse itself, right? So as you can see from here, a number, we'll try to, put a number from here, and you say check-in dates and checkout, checkout date, for example, right? If I click on save, as you can see, we have a date and time as well, in which so we can select the time, right, in which the book were created, and say 1 p.m. Click on save, for example. As you can see here, the number were automatically generated. So if I try to create a new record, for example, and here I say the BN number 2, let's say the mark and the email cards, email.com, and I put a phone number, and here, once I click on save, the number is what is automatically generated, right? If I go back to the records, as you can see from here, we have the numbers 01, and if I go back here, we have 0, 10. And so, and of course, there's something that is happening here that this is not encouraging, which I will not recommend, right? As you can see, the number started from 1010 from 1000, 1001, and all that, which is not encouraging. We want to start from 001, right? So we can go back to our solution, and then here we can go back to our columns. And here we can locate our ID, right? What's the case ID? Record ID. And we can change the active, I was gonna say 01. Yeah. So you can see the number to, let's say, or 2 or 1, or starting from 1. And then here we can leave it as 4. So here, so is it, yeah, I mean, the auto number is kind of one of the things that Microsoft has done to, I mean, to enable some developers to leverage on these to without have to go through some sweat. You can also create a kind of plugins that auto generate case ID, record reference ID, for example, and depending on your scenario as well, right? So you can also change this to the format we have for there. We can say 2. We don't want to have a 4 numbers, okay? And here we can change to 2 once we do that. And again, if you go back to our record and try to refresh once again to see if that number will reflect, or if you have to create a new record to reflect that as well. Okay, it's not reflecting. Let me refresh once again. Okay, so once you create a new record, and here we're gonna have BN number test, and click on save. As you can see, we have a new number now being generated, right? Okay, so what I want to do is to go back and to see if we can add more record to it, right? Now, I created one table, right? Now, we want to see what kind of books the student is being, want to borrow from the library. Now, we need to add more fields in terms of the department of the student and also the types of books, right? This is where we talk about relationship now, table relationship. Now, I can go back to my Dataverse and then create additional table. And if I click on here, I can click to create additional table and call it, let's say, departments, right, in which the student belongs to. And then, of course, I can leave it a name. It's fine for me. Click on save. And also, I can create additional table called book types. Okay. And I need to create another one. Click on here, click on the, sorry, I need to go by. Click on here, click on the table, another table, call it book type. And then here, and then you can select the book types. So if I go back to my main table, which is the library tracker, right? I need to be able to create relationship between the tables, right? So now if I go back to my form here, sorry, to my forms, is my forms here? Okay, go back. Okay, to my forms here. So let me refresh these to have. Okay, so now here I'm going to create a relationship between the tables, right? We have, so I'm going to create a lookup field. So the lookup field will actually create relationship between the tables. So if we go back here, see that, yeah, there's no relationship between the book types and the library tracker, right? If I go to relationships from here. So there are 2 different ways you can create relationships, right? Depending on your scenario. And most of the times, I usually create a lookup field. So with lookup field created, we automatically create relationship between the tables, right? Now, this is types of relationship you can see here, many to one and one to many and many to many. That was trying to explain earlier on my slides here. So as you can see here, there's no relationship yet between the library tracker and the book type yet. If you look at the tables from here, there's no such relationship. Now, and also the same thing as the department, right? So now if I go back to the table, to the form, I need to create a table, a field or columns called book type. Okay, book type. And here, what I'm going to do is to create a lookup, right? To where? To which table? Book type, right? Okay, related table is going to be a book type. Okay, so I need to refresh. No, I need to refresh this table. Just a moment. I need to refresh this so that it can reflect on this table. And here directly, you can click on book type. Sorry, book type. From here, click on relationship and then click on custom and for book. Book type, as you can see from here. So this will define the relationship between the library tracker and the book type. So I click on save. So now this will create many-to-one relationship and one-to-many relationship between these two tables, right? So once I go back to the table, once it's done created, and if I have to go back to the table itself, and if you can see from here, if I go to table relationships, you're going to see, let me refresh this place. Let me refresh. Okay, so if I go back here, I click on relationship and see, as you can see here, the related table. So you can see one-to-many relationship, right? And if I also go back to the library tracker, you also see the many-to-one relationship here automatically, as you can see from here. So because by the time we want to get information from the table itself, okay, it's not this one. Okay, it's not here. Yeah, so from here, right? And then so from here I can add more from to add mod field here, which is what? Book type. So you can say the book type, right? So click on here and click on save and publish as well. So once I do that, and again, if I go to my sitemap, I need to be able to add the book type, right? And here into this navigation. So click on add, click on area. And here we're going to add select entity, and then we're going to select the book type, book. So here also I need to refresh so that can reflect in the table itself. Click on here, and then I need to add more records to this. Click on sub area, click on entity, and then book type here, and click on that. So here I'm gonna add. So I'm gonna do the same thing for the department as well, and click on here, departments. Okay, so click on table, lookup, and here I'm going to select departments. Wow. Okay, let's click on. So that's one thing because I have an existing department there, and then here, click on save. Okay, seems a little bit taking a little bit longer time. Okay, so once we do that, so let's just quickly finish this. Then we go to in terms of maybe probably scripting or something. And then here, well, also we can build some kind of logic to this, right? And to see that It's taking a long time. Okay, so here you can start dropping your question if you have any question. After we are done with this. Okay, so this is not created. Departments. Okay, let me try to create a new department from here. Once again, department. And then once again, the field to departments. Okay. Okay, so what is this creating, right? So this is going to give us the ability for us to be able to track our library, and most of the times you wanted to let me go back. It's created here, department here. Okay, sorry, on the form of a department in which the student belong to, right? So we can just say phone number, check in, check out. Okay, all right. Okay, so click on save and publish. So now if I go back to the form from here, from the interface, so we're going to see that we have a box, and then also I'm supposed to add the department as well. Just a moment, I need to be able to add this as well. Departments, entity type, departments, should be this one. Save, publish, and here once again is save and close, and then also save once again from here. And then sometimes you have to publish like twice and before you can reflect from the sitemap and also from the app designer itself, right? So once I go back here and from here, then I click to refresh from the table, and this actually showed me. So now if I added, oh, I have to add this to the form itself. Okay, book type, I need to add, sorry, to the form, departments. Okay, this one added actually. So where is this department from here? Oh, okay, let me go back to departments. Okay, as you can see, I need to publish because I didn't publish here. So this is not displayed from there. So if I go back and try to refresh once again, it should have been published by now. Okay, still publishing. Okay. The form is still publishing. We have to wait a little bit for it to publishing. So what I want to see here is that once I can see the book from here. So if I go to create the book type, and here I can say that computer science, computers. So later on, maybe, so we can also add the book, the name of the author of the book and all of that within the data type first, because we don't have time. We don't want to do that as well for now. And then here I can add department, science, um, uh, sorry. Okay, computer science. I can add more departments here. I can add, let's see, theology, for example, theology. Okay, go save and close. I can add more books to here. And then let's say history. Okay. I'll click on save. So if I go back to my app, I can usually add let me go to book here. Can add more to the book type here. I can select, as you can see from here, I can be able to see the record and also the student department the student belong to. So I click on save, and once I did it, so this is how you can. This is like a simple app that we just build within just a few minutes, and then here. So another thing I want to show you is the logic part of it. So how can you build a logic? What are you going to do with logic? And that's what we talk about the scripting, right? I'll just quickly briefly talk about this. Sometimes when you want to write a code, you want to understand the gaps that exist between the what can be accomplished during configuration and the writing a code, right? So before I move on, anybody have a question? Is there any question here? Any question? Okay. Okay, all right. So okay, so we continue from here. So now we're talking about scripting, right? So we also want to determine the yeah, okay, just to confirm. So now when we talk about extensibility, right? Extensibility means writing like in terms of extending the model-driven application, right? That is, it generally means in terms of code, writing code to meet the requirement that is not available or what cannot be accomplished within the inbuilt customization, right? Inbuilt features or functionalities, right? So this comes at the most often at the forms level itself, right? Now I want to extend based on the user experience of the model-driven apps or based on the Dataverse platform itself, right? Now, when to determine when to configure, to configure or to code. Now, as a developer, you should approach these Power Apps from, have understanding that is the last thing to do to write a code when other inbuilt features or functionalities are not available to achieve or to accomplish that requirement. So writing a code should always be the last thing to think about when you're developing anything in model-driven apps. And that is why Microsoft have actually talked about, advocating for low code and no code in developing your application, right? So, and here we also have like a business rules. The business rules define is like a server side, logic or logic that you can use to model your application, right? And then also this will give you the understanding of how you can be able to develop your application without writing the code, right? So the business rules are usually defined within at form level or at entity level, right? So with the business rule, you can set columns value, you can clear the columns, you can validate data within the columns, right? You can also, make the field required, and so on and so forth, right? So also have a rule of fields to perform calculations based on what values that can want to be stored within the column itself. So these are things that are supported in terms of whole number, decimal number, the currency and all, and the date type, dates and time. So also have the calculated fields, right? The calculated fields is like defined like the formulas to enable you to calculate or run the Dataverse regardless of the form that's being used or all. So it's also allow you to improve data integrity, right? Simplify form development. So these are the types that are supported: text, option set, two options, and all of that. So as you can see here on the right side, you can be able to add number of days, weeks, and all of that. And as our own case, we talk about the library check tracker, right? So we want to be track how many days the books were used before it can be returned, right? So we want to know, or you want to automatically, add some days to the checkout date, right? Okay, this book should be returned on the after 10 days or within 10 days or something like that, So these are the things you use calculator for you to do that. We also have a business process flow that provide you a guide to for people to work process, the work from start to finish. And then of course, just specific to organizations can have a standard process of achieving some kind of process within the organization. So organization can define a process that user can follow, within to follow, to validate, and to ensure that all the process, all the required information is being entered into that application, right? So also have the client scripting side of it. So this is what we talk about scripts coding, right? And of course, this client scripting, we just finished talking about the server-side scripting, and here we talk about the client scripting. So of course, the client scripts allow you to use JavaScript, right, in the Power Apps model-driven apps to implement custom business logic, and also this can also be used alternatively to the previous logic that we defined, which cannot accomplish the business requirements, right? So, and of course, most of the times, the client scripting runs on a model-driven form in response to the form event, in terms of form load, in terms of the forms column changed or forms saved itself, right? So you can load, as soon as you open the forms, the JavaScript can start working as expected, depending on how you define it, or when you save the form, or when there's a change, also the update on the field, or when the field is updated, right? Now, how you can be able to add columns? I think I showed you earlier where you can add JavaScript to the form. And then here you have web resources. So JavaScript is the web resources. In the model-driven apps, we have web resources where you can add your form library. There's a library that you can add your JavaScript on, and then where your form, or what you define within the form or with table can actually process that script. So here also have where you can apply the scripts at the form level, and also at the tabs, and also at the columns. Okay, sometimes you wanted to, when there's an update within the columns, that's when there's a change or that need to perform within the columns. So this can trigger the JavaScript to perform unexpected actions at the form level. And of course, you wanted to apply this to unload or unsave. And at the tabs level, either to display the tabs or to hide the tabs, or to display the tab based on specific scenarios, right? So on and so forth, right? So I don't dwell too much on this one. And then this is where you can register and how you can register your JavaScript within the form itself, right? So, and we also have a form context, execution context, and all of that. So as you can see from here, these are clients API references client references, of course, that you can also reference when you are developing your JavaScript within the app itself. So now, and also talk about the form context. So this usually like a client API form that we can usually apply to your code, so that by the time you are, you can be able to reference your form within your code, right? So you can also reference an item on the form, such as the quick view, or a editable grids, and so on and so forth, right? You can retrieve form contents from execution context using this gets a form context here, right? Yes, using the form get context within here itself, right? So now if we have to go to the form context, and of course we have the data objects, and also we have the UI objects. So I talk about the UI data objects that can be used to, this is intended to be used for any table and processes, okay? For data manipulation within the form itself, or yes, within the form. So talk about attributes, the entity, the process, and all of these, right? We also look at the UI objects, and in the UI object provides the method to retrieve information about the user interface, and also collect several subcomponents of the form within the grid or form itself. So these are the things you can apply your script. Now let's look at the business rules and client scripting. So one of the advantages of this is that the business rules can actually be easily be understandable and implement within the model-driven apps, even not as a developer, for example, right? So we can be able to use the business rules to achieve some kind of logic within your app. So the client scripting side has to do with, in terms of, have to write some kind of codes, either a minimal code or complex one. But this will allow you to be able to accomplish something that is not to accomplish the business requirement in which the business rule or the inbuilt features is able to accomplish for you, right? So talk about the flows, workflows, and then also Power Automate flows. We also talk about plugins. So these are the workflows. Power Automates are also part of the logic as well. You can also write the plugins to and in conjunction with the workflows. So what's necessary to to create a plugin, for example, like earlier on I'll show you how to auto generate the the record ID, so that's available within the model-driven apps without writing a code. So but there could be a specific scenario that the client or your customer or business might require that the case ID or the record ID to have in a specific way that may not be achieved within the available of inbuilt logic. So that might require the plugin to be written and to achieve that business requirement, right? So now let's quickly go a little bit about demos on regarding this, right? So now what happened there, we need to add like a few more things here, right? We need to see we can apply penalty to the what happened if the student does not return the book at the time they're supposed to return the book, right? So we can say that, okay, the student need to apply penalty. We need to apply penalty to the student, like in terms of pay and how much is going to pay within that as well. Now, so if you go back to our form, I'll just quickly do this. And then here, the form, I think I need to bring this here. And we say we add an form pay penalty here, and then okay, penalty, and here we can select the choice either yes or no, If it is yes, what's going to happen? But here we can say save, right? And we're going to add that to the form. Okay. Okay, right. So if I go back to the form, this is the main form itself, and I should be able to have this if this that's created. Okay. And if I have to refresh this one. So here and then here, of course, now, this is why it's loading. So now we can also add a field called like amount of fee, penalty fee, right? Penalty fee, right? And here you click the currency. As you can see from here today, I've used different data types for us to be able to see how this is work, right? And then if I click on this one, this we also be able to add additional fields to the form itself, right? And then of course, so and also I wanted to add something also to here, right? How and student details, right? So I need to add sections to define the section between, book details and also student detail itself. I think it's taking longer time. Why is it taking longer time here? Okay, just a moment. Still loading from here. You can drop your question if you have question for me. Anybody have a question? Let me see if I have a question here. Okay, no question yet. Okay. Why it's taking longer time to load here? Okay. Okay, so while this is loading, I can quickly go to the business rules. So here and here. So now what could happen here? It's better for this form to load clear so that I can. Why is it taking longer time to load? Okay, yeah, so I have the card now. So what I can do here to create another section, I have another section here. I can quickly drag the name of student here. And then see some this is student details and the student email, phone number, and all of that, right? You can do this, or I can usually create, let me just say here, 2 columns, right? So I can call this students, let me see, yeah. So you can remove these columns, for example. And then of course, yeah, okay. And then here, we can save, yeah. Okay, I need to add penalty to this penalty student departments to be here. And then add this. Okay. Okay, I can add additional status here. Here I can change, I can be able to add something to the status and say, okay, let me say returned, right? And I say borrowed or loaned. Okay, and then status of the say, okay. So I think this is okay. Status reason. Okay, can click on this. So I can decide to change. I can add status to the record, either when the book is returned or if the book is still on loan. and then, or I can say book borrowed, or so whatever I want to call it, the name I want to call it, right? And then, yeah, I'm not sure why it's taking a little bit of time for this to upload, to load here. Okay, still from the load, right? Okay, let me just edit one more time. Say, and here you can decide to leave it at default or loaned. I'll say new. Okay, borrowed. Okay, so you can say borrowed. Borrowed. I can say new. Okay, and I can say new one here. Save application from here. So I can also drag this from to this field to the header, because this is what I actually wanted to see the student. Okay. Okay, so I can drag to the header here if I want to do that. Click on save and then click on publish. So now I can go back to my form, and then here I can say that here I can click on business rules. So what I want to do with the business rule, because I want to be able to apply some kind of penalties, right? So when the student didn't return the book at the date as expected, the book to be returned, you understand? So then you're going to apply it's a kind of penalty to it, right? So now, just a moment here for me. Okay, so if you go back to the main form, try like here, click on refresh. So once you do that, as you can see here, I have penalty, yes or no, and then how much you can apply, amount you can apply from here as well, right? Now, so now I want to hide this field, right? By default, I want to hide this field, and then this field should only display only when this is yes, right? This is what I want, right? So now, okay, so here we also have a status, right? So when the book is done, or when the book is not returned, yeah, maybe like a new or borrowed. Let's say, for example, the book was borrowed. Then click on save, and then here. So if I go back to business rule, I can click on add new, create a new business rule from here. So what condition can you define here, right? So click on the here we have the penalty, right? Yeah. So here we can see as you are defining your business rule, is going to display within the business rule designer itself. Now, if I say the value, then when the penalty field is equal to yes, then what should happen? Then you can apply to display, okay, visibility to the form, right? And then say penalty fee should display, right? Then shows display. Otherwise, we can add to say visibility. Otherwise, I say penalty fee should be what? Should not display, right? So as you can see here, so this is being achieved, right, without writing a script. And then you can see, so when the penalty field is equal to yes, then that penalty fee field should show, otherwise it should what? It should hide. So you can also give it a name. So it's a good idea also to give just a name. show penalty fee. Okay, penalty fee. You save, then you activate. Activate your record. So now I was talking about how and where you can apply the business rules. Here, if you you can define the scope in which the business rule can apply at the form level, at the entity level, and at the form level, you can specify the specific form, right? As you can see from here, you have all the forms or information. So these are available forms, they're available. So if you apply it to the form at the form level, that means that in that specific form, the business rule will be effective, be executed, right? But at entity level, which is always something that I usually do or recommend, we can also do as well, so that even though the form does not exist, or maybe there's a probability that there's a change, maybe the form need to be deleted or renamed or or deleted or removed from that application, so that means that the business will not be effective. But at entity level, that's at table level, right? So this will, no matter how where the form is I mean the data is always executed, right? That's why it's recommended to use the entity level. So once I do that, and here from here I can be able to execute the business rule based on specific action here. So if I go back to my form and refresh, so as you can see from here, this is what, as you can see, the penalty fee is hidden. And then here, once I click on yes, as you can see, automatically is what created, right? So, and I mean displayed, right? So I can apply and say, okay, the book is borrowed and return. I also change, stand the status. And here, as you can see, the box says, so if I click on no, as you can see, it's hidden. If I click on yes, it's what, and then there's something also you say that once I click on no, as you can see, if I click on yes, as you can see, the money is back there, and then which is not good for data management, right? Because it shows that the record is already exists, right? So once I click on no, so and once I click on yes, I shouldn't see the value anymore, right? So what I needed to do is that if I go back to my business rule, let me see if I can apply it to the same. Here I can deactivate, and also I can add something to clear the value in the right the form itself, and then say penalty fee. Okay, penalty fee, and I say clear. Okay, so once it's no, then hide. Say hide it and also clear the value in the field. So click on save. So it's good this way to do this way because it's very important that we actually clear the value so that it will not affect when we are doing reporting or you understand. So this is very important as well to take note of it, right? So if I go to my form and then you can refresh on this page, and so if I click on no, and if I go back and say yes, as you can see from here, this is actually clear off the form itself, so I can apply furthermore 20, let's say for example. So I talk about the calculated field and then roll of field. at the other time. So I'll just look at one more step to see after this we can round up. And if I go back to the form, right? So another thing I want to add to this is that here I want in such a way that expected date of return, you understand? And once the form is not being returned, right? Right. So then I want to apply these penalties, for example, right? So then this could be like the actual check-in date, and this one could be like expected, another field called expected return date, right? And then so I can actually use that base like a calculated field to do that, to add more date, like, okay, this book should be returned in the 20 days time or 30 days time. You understand? So if I go back to my form, click on add, and the expected return date. Okay, and return date. Okay, and I click on dates. Most of the time I wanted to look at dates only, and then here I can click on calculated field here. So once I click on that, I click on save. Or sometimes you can click on make it a due date. Okay, all right, so just a moment. I think there's something I needed to try to open from here. Okay. Just a moment. Okay. All right, so we have the calculated field, which shows the what they're trying to achieve here is that we wanted to add more days to the date in which the book was, borrowed within our checking library tracker, right? So, and here we have the condition that we wanted to define within. Let me try to expand this if this upon okay. This is a current library entity, and also we look at the checkout date, right? Field type, and we say the checkout dates contains the data, right? You can click on apply from here, and then your action that need to take place, right? What are these actions that need to take place, right? You need to add days, add. So the functions here we add days, right? Then how many days are we going to add? Let's say 20 days, right? Then comma, then add, then what field? Expected, right? Okay, what's that? My sample. Okay, and expected return dates. To be applied on. So applied on return expected. Okay, this should be applied on yeah, we should have this date to be applied on the expected return date. Okay, I need to add that to the form server, right? Okay. Return date. Okay, from here, it's not picking up these dates. Okay, add this. This is not adding from here. Okay, book type, checkout dates. Okay, checkout dates. Yes, sorry. Yeah, so checkout dates. Yeah. Okay, right. Just click on OK. Checkout dates. Click on save. So, so this will actually automatically add 20 days to the checkout date, right? So once I click here to add, should be why this closes. Taking more time for this to load. Right. Okay, save and close. And then here. Okay, so click on here, expected to return date or due date, right? So as you can see here, this shows the expected, I mean, the calculated field is going to be locked automatically, and you can edit it directly, and then so you can publish. You can publish this as well. So once if I go back to my form, I'm going to see the, click on refresh. Okay, so once I select, okay, still publishing, still publishing probably. And that's one thing about this, you have to, wait a little bit for it to publish. Once it's published, then we can be able to do that from here. Okay, and then here. Okay, so here, okay, as you can see here, it's data already. So if I click on, okay, the book is borrowed today, so let's say for example, and once I click on save, as you can see, it's going to add more 20 days to it, as you can see automatically, right? So this book is expected to return on the 14th of April, right? 2023, right? So as you can see, what we can do with, this kind of, server-side scripting without writing a code, right? So maybe I can show you the last thing I want to show is this script itself. You understand? How can you apply script? What do you need to do with the script? So we can either do something, we can create a business flow to log this field, to make this field read only when it contains data. But the thing is that once it contains data, then this will actually automatically log immediately. So okay, let me show you how to do this one. And you can click on this one here, and you click on save. Okay, new business rule. Okay, so and then here, because the field, the reference or case record ID shouldn't be accessible by anybody, and then still here, sometimes it's good to have, many times it's good to have name being applied to the conventional name, right? So record ID, and here contains the data, then that field should be what lock. But usually I can go to the form itself, right? I can go to the form, okay, so form, unlock this and make this read only, okay? But in case, there could be a case that, okay, ISB number. So once the IB number containing data, we don't want to change it, right? So that's why you're going to apply the business rule upon, right? So here we're going to say the ISB number, and then here ISB number containing data and containing data, then they should lock this field lock. Then they should be locked this field ISBN number, right? Oh, sorry, log this field. All right, save. Right. ISBN number. It's been saved. Okay, ISBN number, right? Lock ISBN number, then click on activate. So once you do that, then so we leave it at our scope at the entity level. Then you want to click on save, activate, and that should calculate this. Okay, so that's fine. Let's click on save. Click on this while you go back to our library tracker. Then click on refresh. So this should automatically lock this, right? As you can see, this is read only. Okay, I didn't save this. I didn't publish. So yeah, I think I published this, right? Okay, so this is automatically locked. So one thing about thing is that, what about if I was typing this and there was a mistake? Then that need to be correct here from here, and then maybe I usually say BN number blah blah and all that. You know, once I do this, as you can see, automatically it gets locked. You know, sometimes I made a mistake and I wanted to go back quickly to change this ID, right? To change the numbers from here. So what I need to do in this case, I need to write a script, that can actually do that upon only when I saved this number, when I save this record, right? So, and then as you can see, if I have to create a new one, discard change. As you can see from here, once it's containing data, it's going to lock, which is not sometimes might depend on the kind of your scenario as well. So I can be able to achieve this by writing a JavaScript code. So now let me go back and deactivate this first. And then here, deactivates, okay, client number. So click on refresh to ensure that it's not locked. As you can see, it's locked already. If I go back to my other record, as you can see here, it's not locked, right? So now I need to write a script. So now I was talking about the client scripting in the other time and how we can apply the script to the form. So I have a sample of script that I can quickly show you here and the functions, how this works out, right? Okay, just a moment. Okay, so there's a script here, and then here. So what the script does, okay, let me show you on this one, is that here, okay, is to log, to log this ISBN field based on saved, once I save the number. So here I can write the function here. Let me change this function ISB log ISB number, log ISBN number, and here, as you can see, we have form context being applied. I'll just quickly explain this as much as I can, and then so now because we wanted to apply the form to the I want to apply the script to the form itself. So we need to be able to get, this is like a client reference from Microsoft that we can use reference to when you are applying script to the form itself, right? And also have, like I talked about the UI object the other time, in terms of the kind of control that you wanted to apply the form type. This is like a form type where the type of form that you want to apply to the type of actions or behavior that you want to apply to that form itself, right? So now we have the form type. So there's a couple of things I can show you here. Let me quickly go to where I can show you from here, from the Microsoft client reference type here. And then Microsoft has a kind of sorry, here, client scripting. Yeah, as you can see, this is where you can actually, get your reference, client reference, client API reference, right? And then here you can see the type of form. You see the form context and the UI level properties that provide you the retrieve information about specific control, right? So, and here you also have a forms on load. These are the kind of reference you can reference from this client type, as you can see from here. And then the form type, what happened to the form type? What I'm trying to do is that, okay, once you create and or update the field itself, right? Sometimes you might want to come back and just, update the field or the ISBN field itself, right? So you can usually, do this, right? So now that's where you pick the types of the returns values from, right? And you can see this is update type, this is return type, right? In this case, we're going to, just for example, for demo purpose, we're going to select the update type, right? So once it is updated, here, as you can see here, and then here we can rename, I just want to rename this to like control, like ISBN control. And then here, can I name this to ISBN? Sorry. Okay. Let's name this right. Just I'll explain a little bit now. This is the value. I just want to. It's good to have a name to ISBN. Prefer to have this ISBN values compare. Okay. Just playing in seconds now. Okay, so what it does at the block does is that now the kind of control, right, to get this is going to get the form context, right, from which field, right? So we're going to replace this with a field that we wanted to so this is going to get the attributes first, to get the attribute on the field and also get the value from the word from ISBN field. Now, so if you go back to our our form, and if you go back to the form itself, the ISBN number, so we're going to copy this, the schema name of this number, right, ISBN, right? And here we're going to apply the form control. So because there's no time to that, I'm just trying to ensure that. Now, what we're seeing here is that, of course, this way, if this, of course, has a value, right, in it, and then this should set the control, understand? So it should set it disabled, right? Like means to lock the field itself, right? So here I can click on save, right? So here, to ensure that everything's okay, and then click on, okay, so to save, let me copy this function number. Now, how can I apply this to the form itself, right? So I can go back to my form and click on here and select form, click on new, and here I can upload my file. Let me see where I save this. Okay, not here. Okay, here, and this is where I save. Let me see the name of the form. like reference ID, where this is saved. I need to be sure where this file is saved. Save as. Okay, where this is saved. Okay, let me save this. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. Save as. Okay, so this should have a correct value now. So in here, click on reference ID and then give it a name. It's a good idea to have this kind of name. And here we have the select type. So this kind of web, like a web resource where you can actually add. So in our case is JavaScript. No, you can also add a style sheet, CSS and XSL and HTML or PHP and all that to your form itself. And as you can see from here, you can add images and different kind of images types and data type as well. But in our case, it's JavaScript, right? And then here you click on save and publish. So once you do that, then you can select this JavaScript to add to my form. So click on save, add, then here, and what level would I want to add this behavior to be executed, right? The other time I talk about the on save, on load, or on changes on the field, right? So in this case, we're going to talk about on save, right? So now, once I add, I'm going to come here to the event handler, and then here, and this is where you have, so I'm going to click on the form itself, the form, yeah. So click on events and then click on event outlet. So we have here, we have unload and save. So unload means that as soon as you open up the record, so that's when and the code, the script is going to be executed, right? And but if you save, this will be executed when you save the record. And you also have the function. Most of the time, you wanted to have to record this function, the same name, and then add it to the function. So if not, you might not be able to get this executed. And also, you can also check the past execution context as first parameters. Then and then click on save, click on publish. So still publishing, right? So now if I go back to my form, let's say back to my form, I click on worker, I click on refresh. I'll just use an existing sample data just to explain existing record. And here, if I want to change this to this, I click on save. Okay, it's not working yet. Let me go back to my form. What's happening? Okay, so okay, let me try to refresh once again. Okay, so let me try to amend something here. Okay, this is not working. What's going on here? Something wrong with the code or what? The SBN. Okay, just a moment. Let's see something. Okay. Value, something's wrong. Okay, I think this is quite right. Yeah, this is fine. Number. It's fine normally. And this is okay. And then here we have a number. Oh, it's quite good. Right, attributes. Get the value. I think it's fine. We're true here. Yeah, yeah, okay. And then, so let's try to refresh one more time. If I go back to my code here, this should be applied to the form itself and change. No, it should be on the form itself. Want to see when we save the form to take effects. Let me publish one more time. Okay. Let me see. Okay. So we need to select the column dependencies. Yes. So that's why. Okay. ISBN number. So I click on save. Okay. So once you do that, then once again we refresh. Okay. So let us see. This is really explain. Oh, something is wrong. It's wrong. Okay. If I go back to my form, I need to remove this. Let me see. Okay. And I need to go back to my solution. Solutions here. Okay. So it's always a good idea to create the script within your solution. So don't create it. As you can see, if I go to web resource, sorry, an existing web resources, if I add it to my form, okay, this is not quite good. Okay, so let me add it from here. Add web resources, log ISBN. If I have to go back to the form, so just seconds. Okay, the ISBN number. Okay, so let me add the web resources to the form. And here we have my reference ID and display name. And here, okay. Just to be sure there's no space between. Now, if I go to my form, then I should be able to add here. So the reason why I have to add it within the solution, as you can see from here, it's always a good idea to come to your solution and add everything from the solution itself. Anything outside the solution, as you can see, the schema will be quite different. So this is why I'm having this issue, as you can see here, which is not good. So to maintain the same convention, it's a good idea to have solution create any kind of script or your custom within your solution, right? So now if I go to the frame handler on save, then I should be able to add this form. Okay, library function, right? Then enable form execution context, then click on publish. Okay, so once that is done, let me see if there's any question here. Any question at the moment? Okay. Okay, so if I go back to my form, okay, so once more, click on save. So wow, something is wrong. Let's see if I have to go to F12. Okay, let's try to look into these solutions. Oh, there's something wrong here. Okay, I see what is wrong with the code. Okay, something is wrong with the code. It's something, I see something wrong here in my code here, right? Something wrong. It's an error here, and this is supposed to be the value itself, right? Yeah. So I think this is the problem from the code itself. This is the problem. Let me once again look at control. Sets. Yeah, I think this should be the set disable. Yes, of course. I think it's right. Yeah. Sorry. Just give me a moment to check on my flow. If context control. Yes. Hmm. I think this is right. It's right from my perspective. Okay. Okay. Let's try it one more to refresh. Okay, so if I go to class site disable, get disabled. Sets. Flow. Disable. Ensemble. Sets. Disable control. Yeah, this is control. Yes, it's fine. Yeah, this is quite correct. Now, code form contents get control. Disable. Yeah. I think we are good with our code here. So, what is the problem? It's fine. Okay. Sometimes I have to log into the browser. Okay. Change the field. Okay. Let me try and log in to the new. Okay. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, so I'm gonna do this once again. Okay. Okay, I have to sign out from here and then sign out completely. So,
Sorry to interrupt the session, Hamad, but I think we've been going for a little longer. So it's like
oh,
3 hours right now. So I
yeah,
think people might be, you know,
yeah, okay,
doing for like
yeah, sure.
staying for a really long session.
Okay, all right. Let me quickly conclude on this one. Okay, so anyway, sorry about taking much of your time. I'm just trying to see how I can cover up everything. So in
Mhm.
summary, customization and model driven apps. This is just like a basic, so it's not something you can do within just a few hours or something. So I have shown you how this you can customize some basic columns within the model-driven apps, and then also how you can use some kind of client scripting and then server-side scripting as well. That the inbuilt functionalities can also leverage on, and then writing this code should always be the last, um, last options when other things within inbuilt functionality is not cannot be accomplished uh, uh, based on business requirement, right? So we can also go for, the JavaScript and plugin as well. There's a lot we can achieve with inbuilt functionalities, and also before we think about writing JavaScript or plugins there as well. So at this junction, do you have any question or I can usually take any question? That's correct.
I don't
Is there
think
any
there is
question?
any more questions that might be having. So there is, they don't have the mic access, so they need to be typing. So, but I don't think there is might be any questions regarding it. I haven't seen any questions so far. So, if that concludes it, we can conclude the session.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. So I want to thank you everyone for attending this section. Even though it took a little bit of time there, as you can see there, and then also I can just trying to get some kind of resources that you can leverage on, and so maybe I will kind of share that as well in terms of model driven apps as well. So if you're going to have a question, you can always, I'm also available here, and this is my LinkedIn account and also Twitter account. And
mhm.
let me see if I can try to share some links regarding the pure um, where you can get some kind of leverage on resources. Okay, so I would recommend most of you to go through this. I'm going to share the model driven apps, and just give me some seconds here. Right, so kind of resources, so a lot there you can achieve from there. Okay, thank you so much. I know I take a lot of time today, and it takes time to actually do some kind of customization and all that. All right, so the beauty is that your understanding of how you can customize the model driven apps and how you can, apply some kind of logic, with very minimal coding there as well. So I want to say thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and then
Thank you.
have a good
And
day.
thank you, Hamad, everyone, for the session and taking your time to explain everything. It was great to have
Yeah.
you. And please do share me any links or presentation that might be useful for the attendees. I'll
Oh, okay.
definitely share with the community and the registrants.
Oh, all right.
So,
Thank you very much. I'm gonna share that definitely. Yeah.
definitely. And thank you again for joining. And
Uh,
thank you all for being in the session.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day.